When most people think of American hockey today, they imagine packed NHL arenas, the Miracle on Ice in 1980, or kids lacing up skates in suburban leagues. But none of that would have been possible without the humble ice rinks, frozen ponds, community arenas, and early stadiums that gave generations of players their first taste of the game. These rinks were more than buildings or frozen stretches of water. They were incubators of dreams, training grounds for legends, and community hubs where winters felt alive. Some were temporary, lasting only a season. Others became iconic, standing as temples to a sport once thought too foreign, too northern, too Canadian to ever catch on in America. Let's revisit the ice rinks that built American hockey dreams. The pond, as the first arena before steel beams and refrigeration units, American hockey was born on frozen ponds. In the early 1900s, kids in Minnesota, Michigan, and Massachusetts waited all year for lakes and rivers to freeze solid. With crude sticks and makeshift pucks, sometimes even frozen horse droppings, they created improvised games that planted the seeds of American hockey culture. These ponds taught lessons no arena could replicate. The unpredictability of the ice forced creativity. The absence of boards encouraged finesse. The cold toughened players who skated until their toes went numb. Legends like the U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer John Mariucci, often called the godfather of Minnesota hockey, began exactly this way, chasing pucks under gray skies, dreaming of bigger rinks and brighter lights. The rise of community rinks. By the 1920s and 30s, cities across the northern U.S. began building dedicated ice rinks. These weren't professional arenas, they were community investments, often funded by local businesses or civic groups who saw hockey as a way to build character in youth. One of the earliest was the Hippodrome in Cleveland, built in 1929, which introduced Midwestern audiences to organized hockey. Meanwhile, in Minnesota and Michigan, small indoor rinks sprouted like churches of winter. What they lacked in polish, they made up for in atmosphere. Wooden bleachers creaked under bundled-up fans. Frost clung to the windows. Hot chocolate and coffee steamed from concession stands. These community rinks didn't just host games, they created a shared ritual, a reason to gather when the world outside seemed frozen and lifeless. Boston Garden and the birth of American hockey prestige. While community rinks built grassroots passion, the big city arenas gave hockey legitimacy. The Boston Garden, opened in 1928, was originally home to boxing and basketball. But when the Boston Bruins moved in, it became the first cathedral of professional hockey in the United States. Its cramped corridors, smoky air, and deafening crowds created an atmosphere players never forgot. Kids who played in outdoor leagues around New England dreamed of skating beneath the Garden's lights. For decades, it stood as proof that hockey could thrive on American soil, not just north of the border. The Garden wasn't alone. The Chicago Stadium, opened in 1929, quickly became another Mecca. Known for its booming organ and intimidating crowd noise, it gave rise to Blackhawks legends like Bobby Hull and Stan Mikita, inspiring a generation of Midwestern kids to strap on skates. College rinks and the spread of the game. If the NHL planted seeds in major cities, College hockey nurtured them into forests. Universities in the Northeast and Midwest built rinks that turned hockey into a rite of passage. The Hobey Baker Memorial Rink at Princeton, opened in 1923, is the oldest college hockey arena still in use. Named after Hobey Baker, the first great American hockey star, the rink gave Ivy League players a stage and set the tone for hockey as a sport of both brains and grit. Meanwhile, at the University of Minnesota, the Mariucci Arena became a powerhouse training ground. Countless American Olympians and NHL stars passed through its doors. For kids in the region, attending a game there wasn't just entertainment. It was a glimpse at what was possible if they kept skating. These rinks connected hockey to education, embedding the sport into American identity in ways the professional game alone never could. The miracle on ice and the arenas that fed it. By 1980, hockey was no longer just a regional curiosity. The U.S. Olympic hockey team's stunning upset of the Soviet Union at Lake Placid marked the arrival of American hockey on the world stage. That miracle was only possible because of the rinks that had sprouted across the country in the previous decades, from youth programs in Minnesota to college arenas in Massachusetts. Thousands of kids had been given ice time that turned into skill, confidence, and passion. Lake Placid's Olympic Center itself became iconic. With its intimate size and roaring crowd, it embodied the spirit of underdog American hockey. Every child who stepped onto the ice afterward could imagine themselves pulling off the impossible. Suburban boom. The 1980s and 90s, after Lake Placid, the demand for rinks skyrocketed. Suburban communities, flush with growth, invested in multi-sheet ice complexes. Places like the Plymouth Ice Center in Minnesota or the Edge Ice Arena in Illinois offered not just hockey, but figure skating, open skates, and tournaments. Parents, once casual supporters, now built their weekends around practices and road trips. Youth hockey exploded in places once unimaginable. Even in warmer states like Texas, Arizona, and California, rinks opened as experiments and succeeded. By the 1990s, stars like Mike Modano in Dallas and Wayne Gretzky's stint with the Los Angeles Kings proved that hockey's dream rinks didn't have to be buried in snow. America had embraced the game. The fragility of rinks. But ice rinks were expensive to build and maintain. Refrigeration systems, insurance, and staffing meant constant costs. Many small-town rinks closed when municipalities could no longer justify budgets. Others were replaced by larger, multi-purpose complexes that lacked the intimacy of old wooden barns. Still, for those who grew up skating under dim lights with cold air hanging heavy, those fragile old rinks remain hallowed ground. Modern cathedrals of ice today. America is filled with modern arenas that seat tens of thousands. From Detroit's Little Caesars Arena to Las Vegas's T-Mobile Arena, hockey now enjoys glitz and glamour once unimaginable. But even in the age of billion-dollar NHL palaces, small community rinks remain the soul of the sport. The frozen pond, the half-empty local arena, the midnight practice. These are still where dreams begin. Every pro player, no matter how famous, can trace their journey back to one simple rink that gave them their first shot. Why these rinks mattered. The story of American hockey isn't just about championships or NHL expansion. It's about spaces that turned a foreign sport into a national passion. Ice rinks, whether outdoor ponds, college barns, or suburban arenas, were crucibles where ordinary kids became extraordinary athletes. They built more than players. They built communities, resilience, and a shared winter culture that connected neighbors, families, and generations. The ice rinks that built American hockey dreams may not all survive, but their legacy endures. Every time a child wobbles across the ice, every time a local team battles in front of a proud crowd, the spirit of those early rinks lives on. They may have been humble, cold, drafty, even crumbling, but they gave America something priceless: the dream of gliding faster, shooting harder, and one day lifting a stick in triumph.